evening, everyone. We're back with more Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live in studio, Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board Executive Director, David Augustinho. David, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you live in studio. So we have some numbers for March, and things are looking good.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good. In March, the unemployment rate for Barnstable County was 7.5%, which is down from 8.6% at the same time last year. So we're a full percentage point better off. And also part of the good news is that the labor force has increased. Last year in March we had 104,600 people in the labor force. This year we had 106,300. So about 1,800 more people in the labor force, which is excellent. That is more potential employees for our businesses as we're heading into our busy summer season.
Great, and that's throughout the entire county of Barnstable?
That's the county of Barnstable, yes ma'am.
Great. So where did these numbers come from?
Excellent question, excellent. Almost no one gets to that question. They're actually provided through a survey. It's not actual, they don't count people who are unemployed. It's the American Community Survey, and I was lucky enough to be a participant a few years ago, and it's a pretty intense survey. We wound up, it lasted, I think they did 3 months and then took a break and they did another 3 months, and it's the survey itself was probably 10 or 15 minutes on the telephone. It's very intensive, and it allows them to, and then of course they extrapolate. It is a survey, so that's what the numbers, how they acquire the numbers.
Great. And when we talk about people in the workforce versus the percent of people that's unemployed, is that the people that, when we're looking at the number of people in the workforce, is that the amount of people who are eligible to work, or is that the amount of people who are working right now?
It's the number of people who say that they are eligible, that they are looking for work, or they would like to be working. And it eliminates, I believe it eliminates military and incarcerated individuals. And then they count it through the survey. One of the questions on the survey is, are you currently either working or looking for work, available for work? And if the answer is no, then you're not part of the labor force. So what affects it sometimes is the general economy. And here on the Cape, of course, we do have seasonality. So, but sometimes coming out of the winter season, say coming out of 2008 with the Great Recession, a lot of people may have thought that they weren't going to be working so much. So, so sometimes it can be general economic conditions that make people say that. And also, we have a lot of long-term unemployed. Once someone gets to be 5, 6, 8, 10 months unemployed, even a year or more, they'll tend to answer no, that they're not looking for work.
Sure. Good to know. So again, looking at the increase in people in the labor force and the increase or the decrease in people who are unemployed is definitely a good thing. Anything stand out in terms of looking at that? Is this kind of a normal progression?
Well, we will face our normal progression as far as our rates will be going down over the next several months into our busy summer season. We are over the state rate. The state unemployment rate for March was 4.6%. Which was down from 5.2% the previous year. So in actuality, we had a better gain than the state as a whole, but that 4.6% rate, that's a pretty low unemployment rate. Back when I was first studying economics, which I was never very good at, by the way. I shouldn't say that. But that was pretty much considered full employment for the economy.
Okay, the 4.6%, that's kind of a thing.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Right. And again, that number falls in people who are looking for jobs.
That's correct.
Indeed.
That's correct.
So, of course, because we have a large retiree population here on Cape Cod. So anything else, David, about these March numbers? I mean, it's always good to see improvement.
Well, one of the numbers that we've referenced in the past is there's only one number that I look at on a weekly basis. One of the things about labor market information is it tends to be trailing data. So sometimes it's 6 months later that you get information about the economy. But one figure, it comes out every week, and that's the new unemployment claims. So every week the government provides information as to how many actual people signed up for unemployment. And at the height of the recession back in 2008, 2009, we were up over 550,000 individuals who were filing in the United States on a weekly basis. Now the figure for last week was 253,000.
That's
and
almost half. That's great.
Exactly. And when you're around, and there's a correlation with new jobs also. So when you're around 250,000, you're going to produce probably about 200,000 jobs on a monthly basis in the economy. That's why for the last 22 months, I think, we've had a gain in employment in the national economy of some, at least 150, 200,000 individuals a month added to the workforce. So it's been a pretty robust period for the American economy, and it's not slowing down either. There's no signs of inflation taking over in any large degree. Our economy seems to be going along at a pretty even keel. Rates stay low so that economic activity will still be stimulated somewhat. So for the United States, it's a pretty healthy economic picture right now.
That's a very good thing. We like that. Is there any data, David, on length of time people are spending unemployed or length of time people are collecting?
Yeah, we get that on actually on a local basis, but again, that's trailing data, so it takes the state some 4 to 6 months to provide that data. But one of when Governor Baker first came into office, that was one of his initiatives, was to try to cut down on that, what we call long-term unemployed, especially people who are out of work for a year or longer.
Absolutely. So David, let's switch gears a little bit. In a little while on the show, we're going to hear our Assistant Director of Senior Services, Donna Burns, talk about a hiring event that's taking place, I believe, tomorrow at the Senior Center for workers age 50 and older. And I understand that you guys held a workshop back in October for workers 55 plus.
Right. We've been running 55 plus programs for quite some time. And we had an event in October where we had 200 individuals who are job seekers and over 20 businesses who met with them around hiring and stuff. And we've done a lot of research over the last 10 years around why retirees come back into the workforce or stay in the workforce. And there seems to be a lot more. There are two major reasons. Obviously, some people need to stay in the workforce, so they just for financial reasons. But that's not the predominant reason. Most people wind up, they retire, they don't do anything for a little while, and then they get bored.
Right.
and they want to do something. So, and we're lucky here on the Cape, we have a large resource to draw from. Our retired population tends to be very well educated. Those that were in the workforce, by and large, were in a pretty responsible position. So it can be a very good source, not so much for full-time workers, although some individuals do come back full-time, but certainly for part-time workers to be able to fill in, and even in a lot of administrative type positions.
Absolutely, and you see that all the time. I have a friend who for many years ran a chain of restaurants, and retired and then spent a few years not doing anything, and then went back and now he works for a bank full time.
Right.
It's the same thing, because I need something to do.
Exactly.
And certainly. So, are there any challenges or barriers for local businesses who may be concerned about hiring that 55 plus, or do we see it as a pretty good market here on Cape?
It is a pretty good market because it's almost the opposite. There are fewer barriers in that most 55 plus individuals, most retirees especially, don't need health care from their employer. They're probably on Medicare, Medicaid. They actually tend to stay in their jobs longer than others. I know that's crazy. I always tell a story about my mother-in-law who's passed away, but she did not work outside of the home until she was 60 years old.
Wow.
She was a homemaker, raised her children and that. She went out and started working when she was 60. She got a job in a daycare center, and she did a 25-year career. She retired when she was 85.
That's amazing.
And that's not, as one of the hallmarks of aging today is that not only do people live longer, but they live healthier. So the ability for someone, I mean, you could say, the 70's the new 50, really. So, so for employers who think that, gosh, somebody's going to come in, they won't be here for long and stuff, the statistics show exactly the opposite, because the millennials and the Gen Xers do tend to do a lot of job hopping and stuff.
Right.
Older workers, not so much. So a lot of advantages as opposed to barriers in hiring 55 plus.
Absolutely. And, you know, we hear so often about the millennials not having those kind of interpersonal skills or customer service skills or work ethic skills. And so I believe maybe even having someone on staff who's 55 plus who has those kind of, you know, work ethic and values may be able to teach the newer workers a thing or two.
Absolutely. And the mentoring can go both ways. Yes, older workers do have that work ethic and other soft skills. The younger workers tend to have a lot of hard skills, especially around technology, that they can do reverse mentoring with some of the older workers also. So the real healthy workplace today, I think, needs to be intergenerational. You need to have several generations in the workforce, and it provides a great dynamic, I think.
Absolutely. Well, David, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable This Morning. A pleasure to have you live in studio, and we'll check in with you again next month.
My pleasure, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. David Augustinho, of course, is the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. You can find them online at ciwib.org or capejobs.org.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, and coming up next, we will have Glenn Cannon of the Cape Cod Commission here on BTM.